Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another daily movie review. Today we're going to be talking about the 1974 film, The Internecine Project. Say that 5 times fast. Internecine. Jesus, I had never heard of that word before before watching this movie, The Internecine Project. I got this as kind of just a blind buy, a blind pickup. It's like, oh shit, James Coburn? Thriller? From the almost mid-70s. I was like, let's fucking roll. But internecine, though, I looked it up because I was like, is this like one of these made-up words? Is this like, part of the fiction of the story or whatever? No, internecine means a catastrophe on both sides, basically. Or something that causes a catastrophe on two opposing sides. So there you go. Anyways, the film is directed by Ken Hughes, director of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, among others. It's written by Barry Levinson, not Barry Levinson, the director, writer of, Tootsie, Diner, Get Shorty. Not him. Different guy. And Jonathan Lynn kind of came in, cleaned it up. It stars James Coburn, Lee Grant, Harry Andrews, Ian Hendry, Michael Jason, Christiana Kruger, Keenan Wynn, Terrence Alexander, and others. The Logline plot synopsis is: a retired intelligence agent devises a cunning plan to eliminate those who know too much about his past. Which is kind of true. Basically, there's this guy, Coburn. James Coburn's like, he wants to be an advisor to the president. And he's ex-spook, ex-intelligence agent. He's got a lot of shady people involved in his life. He's done a lot of shady things. And he feels like there's just too many of them out there. So he makes his plan over the course of one evening to kill them all. And he does it in such a fashion where it's like he sets them all up against each other. So it becomes like dominoes falling until the end. One takes care of the other, basically. And the movie is mostly just kind of him setting the plan in motion. Then there's like some kind of weird character stuff that doesn't really work. We'll get into it a little bit, and then then you see what happens at the end. We'll talk a little spoilers at the end. We'll talk about it. But yeah, like I said, this was a complete blind buy for me rather. And I really like Kino Lorber Studio Classics here. And every once in a while, a couple times a year, they'll have like a sale, and their sales are pretty cool because you can go on there, you can get Blu-rays like, $7-8. It's not like a lot of the boutique labels when they do sales. Their movies are still like $17-18. These, Kino Lorber will actually go down to like $10-8, and I think this was like $6. So I was like, fuck it, man, $6. Shit. Even if I hated the movie, $6, whatever, that works for me. And it's a cool, interesting little movie. Like somebody said that Kino Lorber on Twitter. Somebody said Kino Lorber was made for obscure Coburn. Because really, honestly, I'd never heard of this. I'd never come across it. It might have been something that it probably would show up on like Amazon Prime, and I'd watch it on a random afternoon, because often I do that. I'm just like, oh, I know who that actor is. I like the time period this was made. Plot seems okay. Let's check it out. So I probably would have got around to it at some point. But anyways, so having watched the movie, it's a little messy. It's a little muddled. It kind of has the sense of a film that was redirected either in post or at the last minute, like during like the script or filming. Like it feels like something that has been completely kind of pulled down to its barest essentials of a story in service of making kind of a fast-paced thriller. I mean, the movie comes in at under 90 minutes. It's 89 minutes long. That's with credits too. So it does have that sense, because it feels like it's pulling from two different kind of directions. They have kind of this almost like political, almost Cold War era style feeling spy thriller kind of shit going on. But then there's also this kind of character driven center to it with Coburn's character. And the thing is, Coburn's character is he's a bastard, and he's a bastard from the kind of the moment you meet him. They never even, they're not hiding the ball really, in terms of like his attitude, his behavior, how he treats people, etc. And obviously, if he's setting out to murder all of his shady associates, well, he obviously can't be a good guy. But the movie kind of is weird because he has like there's this romance subplot with between Coburn and Lee Grant. Lee Grant, if you don't know, she was in Damien, or Omen 2, Damien, and a few other things. But Yeah, it was it really just kind of didn't jive with it, and it kind of felt abrupt, and it kind of slowed the movie down. It felt like, almost as if like the movie just comes to a complete screeching halt for like just a few scenes. Like, I don't think if those things were taken out of the movie or the story completely, it doesn't really change anything because it didn't actually add anything to his character. Like, I can understand, or I could see if they had built that out better and shown that he had some sort of moral conflict with what was going on, or he had like a sudden crisis of conscience maybe, and maybe this woman would have inspired that in him, but that's not really what happens. He never actually deviates kind of from who he is. And that's why I was thinking when I was watching it, I was like, oh, maybe there's something missing here. Maybe they cut some stuff out to streamline things, because it wants to be kind of a fast-paced, interesting thriller. Some good stuff about the movie. All the performances are great. Like, this is a kind of the reason why I like these kinds of movies. And this era of filmmaking is just full of fantastic character actors from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And a lot of them are like middle-aged or a little older at this point in their career. And they'll do kind of kooky, weird things like the Internecine Project. Like, they'll just show up in those kind of movies. And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy it when really great kind of established actors will go and not necessarily slum it, but go do something a little more genre, a little more fun, a little more interesting than just like kind of straight dramas that maybe they would have been known for in their earlier days. One of the best parts of the movie, though, if you are to watch this movie, and I could say almost entirely it'd be worth watching just for this, is the score by Roy Budd. It has just this really great kind of propulsive genre, just kind of like really in like a lot of like timpani drums and bass, and I really enjoyed it. It's really like driving, and I really had a lot of fun with it. He did famously for he worked as a composer. Let's see what else he did. Did a lot of cool stuff. Also something called Mama Dracula, which I'm going to look at right now because that sounds amazing. Mama Dracula. I have never heard of this movie. It's a comedy horror movie from 1980, available on Amazon. Oh, it's in one of those those DVD like 20 packs. Oh, okay. I wonder if that's public domain. If it's public domain, maybe we could watch Mama Dracula at one of our nightly live streams. What did he do? I saw some things that actually it made sense. It was like, oh, that makes sense that he would do that. He did Get Carter from the era. The original Get Carter, not the remake with Sylvester Stallone, the one with Michael Caine, directed by Mike Hodges. What else did he do? That Magnificent Seven Deadly Sins, Steptoe, The Man Who Came to Dinner, Fears the Key, The Stone Killer, The Destructors. Interesting. I expected to see kind of more of a, I don't know, like more recognizable stuff in there. But listen, this score, if this is the best thing he ever did, I mean, I think the Get Carter score is very kind of similar to this one, if memory serves me correct, which is also a great score. But it was almost like worth just finding out about this movie just to check that score out, because I like buy vinyl. I'm starting to collect that's trying not to, actually, probably shouldn't, but collecting like vinyl movie scores on vinyl, and I would totally get the Internecine Projects on vinyl. I really, really loved it. It elevates the movie, and it is in the best parts of the movie, and I think that's why like there's a weird tonal shift that happens. It's just like there's something incongruent about like the thriller aspect of the movie, and then the character study, the character piece portions of the film, that it doesn't feel like it's in the same movie. It doesn't feel like it should be there, and I don't know if that's just a failure on Ken Hughes as a director. Apparently, I did a little bit of research, and there was actually on the Blu-ray, there's an interview with Jonathan Lynn, the writer. Apparently, it was kind of a troubled set. Coburn and Hughes just constantly fighting. Coburn, I think, was kind of asserting himself as a little bit more of a star at the time. He'd been working for a while, but he was an established person. And I think he had a few kind of big movies before this, just like right before this, so he had a little bit of power. And he would argue apparently all the time about stuff in the script, what should happen in the scenes. He even argued about how the movie ended, and he, like, I guess apparently was pretty explicit even in the media about like how he hated the ending, which it doesn't make sense to me because it is the right ending. That's got to be actor narcissism. Be like, oh, he should have became a good guy and lived happily ever after. Yeah, just a little bit of a spoiler. You don't care. You're never going to watch the Internecine Project. But he dies. He's the last domino to fall. Like, so everything goes into place, and then the chain is actually finished by him dying. At the very, very, very end of the movie. It's like the last 2 minutes of the movie. He ends up getting it. Yeah, so there was a lot of, I guess, problems. I think the script changed a little bit as well. It was much more like full of political intrigue explicitly. Barry Levinson, the writer, like I said, not the Barry Levinson you think. He did a lot of stuff. He got involved in Hollywood. There are rumors that people thought maybe at one point in his career, maybe he was actually CIA or involved in the government intelligence community in some capacity. Because he wrote like there was like a short 10-page story that was written by some anonymous ex-CIA person that Barry Levinson was claiming he got the inspiration for this movie, the Internecine Project. So, but Jonathan Lynn kind of surmised, he's like, I don't know, man. He kind of lived. He was a weird, secretive, kind of paranoid guy. Kept odd hours. He was kind of not difficult to work with, but he seemed like maybe he was in the CIA. I don't know. Maybe this is the early goings of them involving themselves and ingratiating themselves in the Hollywood system. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, he didn't really write much else. He did one other thing, an episode of American Playhouse in 1987. Mostly worked as a producer for only a couple things. He doesn't have a ton of credits. Yeah, so which is, interesting. But yeah, and apparently though, what like part of like that original 10-page treatment or whatever from that anonymous CIA guy was that the character was going to be much more of kind of like an infiltrator. This person, that Coburn's character would have been like a Russian guy or maybe a German guy, maybe even as like working as a spy, and they were at this point. They had kind of gotten into the system. They're posing as an American, and they would have, they're at this position where they're about to be an advisor to the President of the United States of America. So they have to kind of cover their tracks. They have to get all the loose ends up, and they're going to do it all in one night. Like, that was the original story, which is kind of crazy that they just kind of they just took out something that was actually kind of interesting. Maybe they couldn't get it to work or something. Maybe it was just like this extra thing. They just couldn't crack the nut of how to incorporate that organically into the story, so they just took it out. I don't know. Maybe it would have been just one too many things. One too many spinning plates. Mayhaps. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so in closing here, it's an okay movie. I'm glad I watched it. I'm actually even not, like, at $6. $6, I'm glad I own it. Be honest with you. It's going to sit nice on my shelf, and I'll probably watch it one more time before I die. And who knows? Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'll become the Internecine Project super fan. Get a t-shirt made. Start hanging out in front of movie theaters, talking the good talk, spreading the good word, hanging outsides of Barnes and Nobles, telling people they should buy it. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe that's me. That's gonna be me. Yeah. I think if you're just into these kinds of movies of the era, it's probably worth checking out. It could have been better. Could have been a lot worse too. I do wish it had a little bit longer, or not longer, a little better of a through line, and that it kind of filled out some of that character stuff so it made more sense, really. The character just feels very one note, and then suddenly like they want to add dimension, and then they don't actually add the dimension, so it can be a little muddled feeling, not confusing, but I would say it's a little muddled feeling, and then it makes the things that happen later in the story towards the end of the third act unearned to a certain degree, but who knows? Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, there's a bunch of links in the description for Facebook, Instagram, my Twitter, my brother Dan's Twitter. Also, if you'd like to make a request for one of these daily videos or something for Zoobox Goes to the Movies, throw it in the comments and I'll put it on the list. Also, keep your eye out on the channel. We're going to start doing live streams more often. I'm going to try to do them at least 4 times a week, I think. 3 or 4 times a week, even if it's just by myself. If it is by myself, we'll probably do movie-related stuff. You know, maybe we might watch some public domain movies, or kind of we'll watch old interviews with actors and directors, and maybe just chit-chat and talk about things. I think it could be a lot of fun. It's just something to do, not just for content, but it seems like, the streaming is actually going pretty well for the channel. We get more subscribers every single time we go for it, so hey. Anyways, you have the best one ever.